Devastating end of an era. The heartbreaking final days of General Hospital legend Anthony Geary and the hidden struggles behind the fame that no one saw coming. This is a work of creative, dramatized storytelling inspired by Anthony Geary's legendary career and his departure from daytime television. It is not an account of his death, but a fictionalized exploration of the emotional final days of an era. For more than 4 decades, Anthony Geary did not simply play Luke Spencer, he was Luke Spencer. He was rebellion wrapped in charm, danger softened by wit, and vulnerability hidden behind a crooked grin. To millions of viewers, Luke wasn't a character on General Hospital. He was a constant. A companion through childhood afternoons, college breaks, marriages, divorces, illnesses, and grief. When the world changed, Luke Spencer remained. Until one day, he didn't. The end did not arrive with a thunderclap or a dramatic death scene. There was no sweeping orchestral score to announce it, no singular moment when the curtain slammed shut. Instead, the end of Anthony Geary's era came quietly, painfully, and with a heaviness that no one watching at home could fully understand. Behind the familiar sets and scripted goodbyes lay a deeply personal reckoning, one shaped by exhaustion, isolation, artistic frustration, and the unbearable weight of being a legend who was no longer sure he belonged to the world that had crowned him king. When Anthony Geary first stepped into the role of Luke Spencer in the late 1970s, no one, not the writers, not the producers, not even Geary himself, could have predicted what would follow. Luke was introduced as a rough-edged character, a drifter with a past and a chip on his shoulder. He was never meant to be a romantic hero, let alone half of one of the most iconic supercouples in television history. Then came Laura. The chemistry between Luke and Laura Webber ignited something unprecedented. Their storylines drew record-breaking ratings, culminating in a wedding episode watched by over 30 million people, a number daytime television would never reach again. Anthony Geary became a household name, a face recognized in grocery stores, airports, and quiet streets alike. But fame is a double-edged sword. While the world celebrated Luke Spencer, Anthony Geary quietly disappeared behind the role. For years, Geary poured himself into Luke with a dedication that bordered on self-erasure. He embraced the chaos, the humor, the darkness, and the contradictions that made Luke unforgettable. He won multiple Daytime Emmy Awards, each one cementing his status as a master of his craft. Yet with every accolade came an unspoken expectation: be Luke forever. What viewers rarely considered was the cost of that expectation. Playing the same character for decades can be both a gift and a prison. The lines between actor and role blur. The audience stops seeing the man and sees only the myth. Anthony Geary, the thoughtful, introspective artist who loved theater, literature, and travel, often felt overshadowed by Luke Spencer, the swashbuckling rogue who never seemed to age, tire, or doubt himself. But Anthony did. By the time the final chapters of his General Hospital run approached, Geary was already carrying years of emotional and creative fatigue. Long hours, relentless schedules, and the pressure to constantly deliver Luke had taken their toll. While younger actors cycled in and out, exploring new roles and reinventing themselves, Geary remained tethered to one identity. Off-camera, he began to withdraw. Colleagues noticed subtle changes, longer pauses, quieter moments between takes, a reflective distance in his eyes. He remained professional, kind, and deeply respected, but there was a sense that something inside him was closing a chapter long before the scripts ever did. He had given General Hospital everything. And now, he was running out of pieces to give. To the outside world, Anthony Geary lived a dream. Stability in a volatile industry. Adoration from fans. A legacy most actors could only imagine. But fame, especially the kind that traps you in one role, can become suffocating. There were places he could no longer go unnoticed. Conversations he could not have without someone bringing up Luke and Laura. Years passed where his own name seemed secondary to the character he portrayed. The irony was cruel. The man who helped define daytime television felt increasingly invisible as himself. Behind the scenes, Geary wrestled with questions that haunted him late at night. Who am I without Luke? Have I already lived my most important years? Is there anything left for me beyond this soundstage? These were not questions of vanity or ego. They were questions of survival. When word began to circulate that Anthony Geary would be leaving General Hospital, fans reacted with disbelief. Some refused to accept it. Others hoped it was a negotiation tactic, a temporary break, another dramatic twist. But this time, it was real. For Geary, the decision was not sudden. It was the result of years of reflection and an aching need for peace. He did not want a dramatic on-screen death. He didn't want Luke Spencer to become a tragic memory frozen in time. He wanted an ending that allowed both Luke and Anthony to walk away. The final days on set were heavy with emotion. Crew members who had worked alongside him for decades struggled to hold back tears. Younger actors, many of whom had grown up watching him, approached with gratitude, awe, and heartbreak. Anthony Geary, ever composed, thanked everyone quietly. No grand speeches. No dramatic farewells. Just hugs, lingering looks, and the unspoken understanding that something irreplaceable was ending. On his final day, after the cameras stopped rolling, Geary stood alone on the General Hospital set longer than usual. The lights dimmed. The noise faded. The familiar hallways, once buzzing with energy, felt strangely still. This was where he had spent the majority of his adult life. This was where he had laughed, argued, created, and survived. As he walked away, there was no applause. Just the sound of footsteps echoing through a space that would never feel the same again. It was devastating not because it was loud, but because it was final. Leaving the show did not magically erase the struggles Geary carried. Transitioning away from a role that defined him for decades required rebuilding his sense of self. Away from the spotlight, he sought solace in travel, art, and quiet routines that had long been denied to him. There were moments of relief, waking up without scripts, without call times, without the weight of expectation. But there were also moments of loss. When something has been your life for so long, even freedom can feel like grief. Fans continued to reach out, sharing stories of how Luke Spencer had shaped their lives. Anthony read many of them. Some brought comfort. Others reopened wounds. He was grateful, but also reminded that his legacy, however cherished, would always be intertwined with a version of himself he had finally left behind. Today, the absence of Anthony Geary on General Hospital is still felt. Luke Spencer remains a benchmark, an era-defining character whose complexity and humanity elevated daytime storytelling. No recast, no tribute, no retrospective can truly replicate what Geary brought to the screen. But perhaps the most heartbreaking truth is this: while the world mourned the end of Luke Spencer, few truly saw the quiet battle Anthony Geary fought to reclaim his own life. The end of his era was not about fading away. It was about survival. About choosing self-preservation over applause. About walking away from immortality to find peace. And in that choice, there is a different kind of heroism, one that doesn't require a spotlight, a script, or an audience. The devastating end of Anthony Geary's time on General Hospital was never just a farewell to a character. It was the closing of a chapter in television history and the beginning of a long-overdue reckoning for the man behind the legend. Luke Spencer may live forever in reruns, memories, and the hearts of fans, but Anthony Geary finally stepped out of the shadow of his own creation.